Hello and welcome back to another episode here at the SteelerFury.com podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Kohlman. You know me as Smith is Smoking on the message boards, joined by the best host that we can't afford and don't have money to pay him anyway. Will Masisak, was Bradshaw to Ben and Accidental Zen on Twitter. Well, what a shit show primetime was the other night. There's really no other way to say it. And I'm glad you ever heard that phrase, don't write an angry email until 24 hours afterwards?
Yeah,
I
this
think
is
that
the
kind of
this is the
applies.
podcast equivalent of
Yeah,
that for
that's what
sure.
I say. I think that's kind of the podcast equivalent because one, I was already tired last night and was thinking, man, if the Steelers weren't playing Sunday night football, I might go to bed at 9:30 anyway. It was one of those type of nights anyway. And then to have that particular shit show would just really put the icing on my cake. So I was in a real frosty mood, like much of the Midwest right now, actually. First
Yeah.
snow of the year already here. Maybe that's what brought it on. Just bad football brought bad weather. Who knows? But lots to talk about from this past game. Really, just we could start anywhere from Rodgers looking like a scared little girl back there, and for good reason. It's
Oh
not like
man,
the
that is not fair to scared little girls, honestly.
okay. To our offensive line getting just absolutely walked back just about every pass rushing snap there was. Like, I don't know if the term anchor was even applied last night to offensive line play. Because ironically enough, I thought our defense did a pretty decent job for the most part. Now, I mean, they should have done much better against the run, but for one half of football, I thought, okay, this is the unit that we're used to seeing now. With
Yeah,
this new two safety look with Ramsey and Duggar. We're going to play a little
yeah.
tighter on the corners. We're not going to give up. We're going to blitz a little more. That was nice to see in the first half, but boy, in the second half, the Chargers found a recipe to start running the ball and getting themselves in favorable situations, which we've always known has been the Steelers' Achilles heel when they have to play both the run and the pass. When they have to play one or the other, they're actually normally typically pretty good. But
Yeah.
when you play these teams that can have some balance and attack multiple areas of the field, we saw what that can happen with. So lots of places we can start out with. We'll just where do we crack the egg open here? There's so many different pressure points we can start.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, a shout out to my background tonight. I
Yeah.
felt that was very appropriate. But by the way, they're just Shittles are just like Skittles. They have a candy coating on the outside, but they have Aaron Rodgers on the inside. So yeah, the defense, it's not enough to do what they did when your offense is playing that poorly. Like you have to almost do more than that. But honestly, I think that was probably about as well as they've played Justin Herbert when Justin Herbert is healthy. Because
That's
the
true.
last time they saw him, he got hurt early and they
Mm-hmm.
had some problems with their tackles and whatever. And this time it felt like the Chargers had enough going on that any lesser defensive performance against them last night, they might have put up 50. So in a way, holding them to 25 points in that scenario was actually pretty good defense. They were on the field for like people always talk about how the offense, didn't they kept the defense on the field and that's why the defense collapsed and whatever. And it had more truth in this game than it does often. So in this game, it felt like the defense was on the field for like 2/3 of the time.
Yeah.
That's never a good situation, especially when it was that the Chargers were able to hit some pass plays finally, and that opened up the run game for them, or vice versa. They hit some run plays with Vidal, and that opened up the passing game. So, Steelers defense against the Chargers offense, that was a good matchup last night. I felt like that in a way, they held them in check, especially for the first third of the game. And then it was like they slowly started to make some more progress. And after the Rodgers interception, scored the touchdown, and then the second half, like whittled away at them. But the Steelers offense, you're not going to win any games like that.
No.
Like you're not going to win games in the NFL against almost anybody if that's the level of offensive output that you get. So to me, it's the bigger concern because it's a trend now. Week 7, week 8, week 9, like it's like the last 4 weeks in particular have been a slow circle down the drain for the Steelers offense. And what are you going to point to? It's not like they're considerably less healthy than they were.
No,
It's
no.
not. It's not like they're facing. I mean, last night was an excellent defense. They're probably player two or three away from being the best defense in the NFL. Like they're very close. Harbaugh's really gotten the most out of them. But yeah, like the only real good offensive performances the Steelers have had this entire season have been against the two of the worst defenses in the league
Yeah.
in the Jets and the Bengals. So it just doesn't feel like a trend. Like the offense is just been playing some tough teams, and now they're going to get back on track again. It feels like they're slowly getting worse. Maybe as teams see what they've tried to do with the heavy personnel and with all the tight ends and not as much wide receiver action and how they want to run the football, like teams are clued in pretty successfully now to what the Steelers want to do, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's all good points. It doesn't help that I think we might be the slowest offense in the league. Like outside of Jalen Warren, he's good and quick out of the backfield. Like none of our wide receivers are that fast, really. I mean, Calvin Austin struggles to get off the line if someone is with him there. Metcalf is a long strider. It takes him a while to get to that next gear, so
Yeah.
he's not instant separation off the line. That's the one thing I kept looking at as the night went on. I was like, we can't separate at all. And it's like, at least last year with Pickens, like he would at least find a way to separate at some point. Like he had quick enough feet, but it's like everyone this year just like has sand in their pants. I don't get it. And then it also doesn't help when Calvin Austin drops like 3 catchable balls. I mean, and let's face it, Rodgers played the worst game of his career ever. Like if you want to go back and look at this game, he had his worst statistical performance of any game he's played in his entire NFL career.
Yeah.
So lots of things went wrong, but it sucks because there's no easy fix to this. It's not like we can trade for anyone. Maybe we should have traded for someone, Omar.
Hey, you can do that. Is that legal?
Yeah.
No, the other thing, I guess what I would say is about the speed thing is they got guys who are fast, but they're all build up speed guys.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't that like, the instant they're off the line. And in a weird way, you're going to think this is crazy, but in a weird way, Darnell Washington has as much burst coming off the line. And if you look at the workout numbers that they all put up,
yeah,
it's actually shockingly true. He's big, so it doesn't necessarily seem like it, but the target that he got was a 15-yard catch that was like he got exploded off the line, right? So I thought that the Chargers defense was kind of giving the Steelers the quick seam throws to the tight end because of Freiermuth and Washington were getting that, and that was making some headway. But they kind of they had Jalen Warren going a little bit, and they could have had some of those. I think those tight end throws could have really opened up more of the run game, but they sort of at some point just got lost. They like abandoned that part of the offense. Jalen Warren didn't even have the most snaps at running back for the Steelers last night. Like the way he was playing, he was like inspiring the team. It's the kind of performance that makes you want to play harder for him, and they just couldn't remain committed to him. I just don't understand.
Yeah, that was one thing I was definitely going to bring up. I thought I bookmarked the stat on Twitter, but he only played like 24 of a possible 67 snaps or something. Like he barely played 35% of the ball game.
Gainwell had a couple more snaps than he did, and then the rest of them were Caleb Johnson.
Right. Well, for one, I don't know what we're doing with Caleb Johnson in there.
Like, it's funny, he doesn't either, and they don't know what they're doing with
him.
And
it just
like we're all in agreement here.
Yeah, every time I saw Caleb Johnson in the game, I thought, what the fuck are they doing? Like he hasn't done anything all year, and we're halfway through the season and we're trying to find a role for him. This isn't the year for him. Unfortunately, this is going to be like a red shirt, freshman year for him. It's like, he had his chances, he screwed up early. We're not going to go back to him this year. And on top of that, the one thing I did not understand, for an offensive line that could not hold up in pass protection, we don't have our best pass protecting block running back on the field.
No.
Like Gainwell is a small ass dude. He's not stopping anyone unless he makes sure he gets that chip block. Warren has been routinely known
Yeah.
as a great running back in pass protection. This should have been a game where he almost never left the field.
No, we also had the same situation with Darnell Washington, who's probably arguably a better blocker against edge rushers than either of their tackles at this point. And he also did. It was one of those games where he didn't get that many snaps. So it was like I think they remained very committed to getting Jonnu Smith and Kenny Gainwell the ball. And I don't have a problem with either of them if you scheme it up for them, but neither of them are guys that are just get them touches, they'll make plays. They're both guys that need something built for them. Like Roman Wilson's in the same category. They can be successful pieces to an offense, but they're not just any situation. They're not all weather tires. Since you brought up the winter theme,
you know what
I mean? Like the all weather tires. Like Jaylen Warren is that guy. It's rare if you have a game where he's not doing something to help you. He can block if there's no blocking for him in the running game. He'll catch a pass out on the edge and make yardage out of nothing. He'll, if you need him to carry it 30 times and wear down a defense, he can do that. You need him to pass protect, he can do that. So like that guy, he doesn't need as much structure to be successful. The other guys need like stuff structured for them.
Yeah, and that might have been the last part I kind of was thinking as the game went on. I was like, we're not even like drawing stuff up for our other guys at this point. Like we're just hoping that Metcalf will like make an amazing play, which is what happened on that 4th down try, late in the game. Rodgers was just like, screw it, I'm going to throw it up to Metcalf and hope he makes a play. And it wasn't a good throw at all. It was like he put it too far out rather than too far up. It's like, at least let him have a real chance at it. I mean, and I know there was a no call earlier in the game where he basically got run over trying to make his route or whatever, but it's like this game was so far gone by that point. It felt like.
So by the way, Darnell Washington 25 snaps, Jonnu Smith 35 snaps. Just start right there.
Well, that does it right there. We know his magic number is 40.
25 snaps.
Yeah, we win ball games when Darnell Washington hits 40 plus snaps. So
it's so sad. I just feel like you've seen every time he's been targeted in the last 3 weeks. It's either a play. He either makes a nice play, surprises you maybe with a bit better play. Okay, he had that this slant where he wasn't looking.
Sure,
that happens. It's like it comes at you. Life comes at you fast when you're goal to go from the 5. But yeah, it's like in general, good things happen when you throw him the ball. You just look at his numbers as far as yards per target and the other metrics. I don't know what else the guy has to do. He blocks his ass off. He's an amazing pass protector, maybe the best they have on the team. And he's done every time they target him, good things happen. And so it's just like, why the resistance to like use a traditional tight end? He's the most traditional tight end that they have.
Right.
They're totally into the idea of using the tight end and having this advantage. They want to do play action. They want to run the football. It's like, that's your dude. Why? I don't understand. The game was never that out until it was late. The game was never that out of touch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I like, okay, let me ask you this. Let's talk about this in a slightly different way. I think this really hurt not just their division chances, but their playoff chances. This is the game because the Chargers are going to be a team that they compete with for a wild card spot in all likelihood, because they have Denver, who's totally overachieving with wins right now, and the Chiefs, who are probably going to catch and pass them the rest of the season. So they're very likely to do that. So I don't know what.
Well, and then I mean, with the Bills losing to the Dolphins too, I mean that lengthens the Patriots lead on the East too. So I mean, right now we're out of the playoffs. I think if let's put it this way, if chalk happened, if all the teams are expected to win the rest of the games, the Steelers would be the 8th seed or 9th seed, and we're looking at that.
I mean, it's like being even 9-8. I mean, 8 or 9 or 9-8 is where they're headed, and even 9-8, the so-called non-losing season, it still would be an uphill climb, I think, to get into the playoffs unless one of those other teams they're competing with collapses, unless like Justin Herbert got hurt or one of those teams that is close to them in the standings just lost a whole bunch of games we didn't expect them to lose. I mean that's the real kicker is we might not even get you have the most highest price defense in the NFL who's had a couple of weeks during the course of the season, 3 weeks out of 9 where they've looked like the high price defense that we thought they might be or something close to it. And we might even have that, have a defense capable of making a run and have Aaron Rodgers and not even make the playoffs. And have and get Tomlin his, never had a losing season and still not make the playoffs.
Right.
It's like,
yeah.
I don't know. I was going to pose it as a question. My question is, do you think this is still a team that can make the playoffs, let alone win a game in the first round?
Yes and no. And I'm going to go with no first. You know what I mean? It's a coin flip on whether they get in, or not. But I'd say no right now, and it's because of what happened really this weekend. Another loss. The Ravens are only 1 game behind us now, and right now I just have zero faith in Pittsburgh maintaining that lead. When you look at the rest of the schedule and who we play, like how are we going to put up points? That's my big thing or whatever. And at least a lot of these teams that we are going to be playing up ahead, and I brought up the schedule or whatever just for rhetoric. We get the Bengals again. We'll talk more about them, but they're a team that at least puts up points.
Joe Flacco is. I mean, if he had any kind of defense on his team, Joe Flacco would be the MVP conversation. He's been
unbelievable. I know, right? Yeah. And then we go to Chicago, and the Bears aren't great by any means, but they at least show some offensive, stuff occasionally. Then we get the Bills at home. I mean, what makes you think we're beating Josh Allen? I know we've kind of played them close for a little bit when we've played that team, but we haven't been able to put a full game up against them in like the last 3 attempts. Then we get the Ravens twice. I mean, the Dolphins just knocked off the Bills. I mean, then we have to go to Detroit. I mean, give me a break. Like, I'm having a hard time seeing 3 more wins, and we're trying to find at least 4 for Mike Tomlin to reach his favorite moniker of never had a losing season before. So, I mean, but the short answer is no. Now, I mean, it's not that we can't go find some wins here. But
yeah, I mean, essentially for their playoff chances, they probably have to win they either have to win the division.
Oh yeah.
Or the Bills or the Chargers, one of those 2 teams would have to collapse. Like, in other words, you got to beat the Bills and beat all the teams you're supposed to beat: Miami, Cincinnati, Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Beat the Bills. There's your 4 wins. Yeah. And, at least split with Baltimore to have a shot. That might get you the division. If it doesn't get you the division 10-7, it at least puts you in tiebreakers for the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's what it would take. It would take, I mean, to me, what's more likely to happen with Baltimore is that they're likely to get blown out in the first meeting with Baltimore, and the second meeting, maybe it's a close game. Maybe they can sneak one. Maybe Baltimore doesn't really need the game in week 18.
Yeah.
Baltimore's schedule is like, like as long as they don't get overconfident, they're going to roll. They might lose 1 game the rest of the year. So I wouldn't count on the Ravens collapsing unless, a lot of things happen. Yeah. But yeah, it feels like now they're in the position where instead of controlling their own destiny, they basically have to beat at least a couple of teams that it doesn't seem like they really match up with very well right now.
Yeah. And I know we're talking about the future here, so I'm going to use that as a little bit of a turning point. But the last thing I will say about the Steelers offense from this past game was abundantly clear to me is that Rodgers has no touch on a deep ball anymore. He just is winging it out there and hoping players go make plays. Like there is very little placement anymore in his deep ball. It's gone. Unless it's a Hail Mary, which we saw a few weeks ago. He can still chuck one deep or whatever. But I mean, we missed Metcalf on a wide open shot to the end zone. I mean, we make that the game could end up very different. We have some momentum, end up making some more plays on offense. But I mean,
Yeah.
he oversailed some balls this past week. He was
Well, I was joking that he got into some kind of like psychedelics when he was in California, and he imagined that all the other players on the field were like 7.5 feet tall
yeah,
because that would explain a lot of his performance.
yeah, but just this is the game that I was like, okay, we can't go back to Rodgers next year. We just can't. You know,
But it's funny, like a month ago, people were like, we should immediately resign him. We shouldn't even wait for the season to be over. And I was
admittedly,
just
I
like,
was one of those people. I mean,
he's
I
an
thought,
older quarter. The thing is, he's an older guy,
mhm.
and he's playing in Pittsburgh for Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith. It's like the chances of that sustaining that level of play for the whole season were not as good. Russell Wilson, when he first came in, we were so happy that he replaced Justin Fields,
Yeah.
played great for a few games, and then it was just slowly petered his way down.
Mhm.
And we're on kind of the same trajectory right now. That, not saying that he'll be as bad as Russ Wilson was at the end of the season, but like I would be surprised if he looks elite, towards the end of the season. Maybe a game or two, we'll get the Aaron Rodgers show.
Yep, we'll see. And I'm not like totally against him coming back because he's going to stay a cheap option. Like he's not an option that's going to break the bank anymore. I mean, shit, he signed for $13 million this year, so I mean, he's not an option that's going to break the bank, and that might be the only reason I'd bring him back at this point. He's done enough to show that he can move the ball when we have time and protection.
Does he look like he's having
but
fun? Like, why would he come back?
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. He doesn't look like he's having fun right now. So
nope.
It'd be a stretch that he even wants to come back at this point. But anyway, like I said, kind of want to move on. As we know, we get the Bengals at home this time. Have to come to Pittsburgh, which should help a little bit. Yes, and I did it that way because I'm really not quite sure. But very familiar opponent here, especially the last meeting. Very bad taste in our mouths. Joe Flacco looked like a freaking action hero is how I'd put it after the last time we played him. And really, I haven't seen anything to show that he hasn't slowed down since then either. Like when he has protection, he can put the ball where it needs to go in the type of offense that gives us fits. He gets the ball out quickly. It's where it needs to be for the most part. 80% of the time it's where it needs to be. So the only bright spot is this. The Cincinnati Bengals defense might be the goddamn worst thing in 2025 across all 32 teams. Like, it is atrocious. It is so bad on so many levels.
Yeah.
So Pittsburgh might be able to score points here. Who knows? Will, what are kind of your thoughts and maybe a matchup or two?
If Cincinnati were not in their division, I would feel a lot better about this game.
Oh, I know, right?
There's something about the division games, whether it's the way that the Steelers tend to approach them in terms of strategically, they just want to turn it into a rock fight, or just the other teams in the division know you so well, so they don't. It's not a lot. It's not about a lot of surprises. It's about them knowing what your weaknesses are and poking you till you break. So I know that we will get the Bengals best. I know that the coach said that Trey Hendrickson was doubtful to play in this game.
That's right.
But my guess would be Trey Hendrickson is like holding out hope, man. He's like, if I can just get in there. If I can
please, can I play Broderick Jones again one more time?
Yeah, it's like I think he would probably really enjoy it. He missed the first one, right? So
I think that's right.
I believe he did, and he came back and got a cheap shot against them that knocked him out against the Jets, and then he missed the last game. Mm-hmm. And now, but it's been 2.5 weeks basically. It was like it was halfway through a game before the bye, and there was a week in between. So yeah, it's quite a long time since the injury, the re-injury. So okay, coach is pessimistic, but it's Monday. Let's see what Thursday looks like. But I guess I would say, as bad as Cincinnati's defense is, I'm not at all sure that the Steelers' offense is that much better. Like they're better than the Cincinnati defense because the Steelers offense is slightly below average, maybe really, in the scheme of things. At least they over the course of the whole season they have been. The last month they've been almost as bad. So what do I expect? I expect the opposite of the first third of last night's game. So the first third of last night's game was like a defensive struggle where nobody could get a first down. It was like I sent someone a text. I was like, I sent you a text, I think.
Yeah,
who do you
it was
think
me.
will be the first one to get a passing first down?
Right.
Because nobody had gotten one to that point. And in fact, nobody got one on a passing first down on third down for quite a long time. I think it might have been like the 2-minute drill for the Chargers. But I think this will be the opposite of that. This will be a game where I'm not sure either team can really stop the other team very much. And the problem with that is I would much rather be the team who has a really great offense when the other defense, let me start that over again. I would rather be the bad defense playing against a bad offense if I know that my offense is going to score some points, then I can play that game a little differently than, if I have the feeling of like, man, if you score a touchdown against us, we're going to lose. Like,
sure,
probably the Browns or the Jets feel like that on any given week. The Bengals have at least they got an offense to protect them a little bit. It's like, okay, we're going to give up some points, but our offense is going to score. So that kind of a matchup. I mean, I'd like to be the Steelers defense and know you have to be, close to perfect and be better than you were the last time against the Bengals for your offense to have a chance to win. Like that's in a way a tougher task. You got to shut down that passing offense, which is dope right now. I don't know, maybe that's crazy logic, but I feel like it's both sides have their pluses in this game. As bad as Cincinnati's defense has been, they know how to play in a shootout, and it's like a division game. They're not going to bail halfway through the second quarter.
Right. Well, and then, it gets even tougher. Well, I'm not sure about tougher. It gets a little different. We don't know if Slay will clear concussion protocol or not. So he's been outright horrible for us the past few weeks. So that might not be that much of a downgrade, actually. Brandon Eccles actually made a few decent plays. And honestly, if it wasn't for a rocket to McConkey the other night, Eccles might have had a pass breakup on that big 59-yarder to McConkey that really set them up again. He was at least in places to make plays, as where Slay has not been. So, and then I'll give you what I know. We have given this guy a ton of crap in the past, but James Pierre comes out and at least battles with dudes. At least
it suits him to play man. I think he's just a guy that doesn't play zone very well.
Right? Yeah, it's like I'll give him a ton of credit. He went out there, broke up a big ball that could have, I think, put him in the end zone or right at the end zone. I can't remember exactly where, but it was just like, damn, that kid always seems to make a play when we're not expecting him to. So I'll give James Pierre credit, even though he's always been like our special teams guy. We've cut him multiple times. Like he just keeps finding ways to stay on the roster and make plays when we need him. So kudos to him. But it'll be interesting because this will be the first time that we have Ramsey and Duggar back playing safety and kind of the way we've tried to do it. So it'll be interesting to see if that does help slow down the Bengals a little bit. But we'll see. They're a little more committed to running the ball right now too, even though I know Samaje Perine's injured and don't think he'll be back again or whatever. And Chase Brown's a very, tough dude to tackle, whether it's running the ball or out of the backfield. So it's just going to be a big challenge for our defense again to see if they can get enough stops or whatever. What are we going to do differently this time?
That's what I was about to ask you. Yeah, that's what I was about to ask you. I mean, here's what I would say. Okay, if I have to read the tea leaves, the Steelers are probably thinking, okay, well, we have different safeties now, and the real problem that we had was they kept hitting these quick slants underneath, and our safeties never came down to challenge that, right?
Right.
So probably they're thinking, well, we're going to be more aggressive playing those underneath throws and not just don't give them a free release and the safety's still going to come down on it or whatever. If I'm the Bengals, I'm thinking to myself, all right, we killed them with these quick release slants and quick game throws. And what we're going to do this time is, we know they're going to anticipate that and they're going to bring the safeties down aggressively. So we're going to burn them with double moves. Like,
Right.
to me, that's the little back and forth that coaches, do in terms of schematically what they like to try or strategically. So it'll be interesting to see whose adjustment to the adjustment is better, right? So
Yeah.
I think that the Bengals' last game is the reason that the Steelers defense has been doing something different since then is because the Bengals exposed the Steelers' preferred way to play it, which is safeties, especially one safety back and out of the play, but not letting any big plays happen, like keeping everything underneath. And the Bengals just shredded that into they tried to play even too deep against them.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, with the safeties that they had playing too deep, just didn't cover really anything underneath. And their linebackers are not good enough to cover the stuff that's underneath as well, dropping those lanes. So yeah, the adjustment to the adjustment, that'll be the real story of this game.
Yeah, I mean, would you see a scenario where kind of like our corners, I don't know, they kind of play man or zone or whatever to the outside, but then have both safeties coming down into like the hooks and stuff to like really try to congest the throwing lanes, or do you think that's just not a good idea at all with the
Well, let me
double?
ask you this. Are you going to blitz Flacco? Or are you going to let him? Because blitzing him doesn't necessarily help you if those receivers, I mean, they got, I'll even say four guys who are great man beaters. They're going to get open right
Yeah.
away. And if you don't get home with the blitz, you're in trouble. So even though Joe Flacco is more of a statue, I find it hard to believe they're going to blitz a lot. They're probably going to play more like you can try to play man coverage against him because Flacco is not going to beat you with his feet. But those are some difficult matchups to play in man, especially if one of the corners isn't Jalen Ramsey. So that's the other thing. The other adjustment is if you're going to have Ramsey play safety, then think about what your matchups are with Chase and Higgins and Yoshivash. Like the Steelers maybe got two corners that can play those matchups. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure they have a Chase. I'm not really sure they have a Jamar Chase guy. Nobody has a Jamar Chase guy.
Yeah,
but Jalen Ramsey, at least can hit him, give him a hard time, or they can mix it up a little bit with Joey Porter with the long arms and grabbiness and whatever, get away with some of that. But yeah, I think they're just the situation where they're deep. You're asking a lot of, like Eccles and JPJ, I think can do their job well enough. Yoshiva's going to run away from Eccles, but that's an okay matchup for me. It's this Slay James Pierre against Higgins or Chase. I don't know. I like the way James Pierre's played this year, but if he's matched up against Higgins or Chase, I'm looking at him. If Chase is on Joey Porter Jr., I'm looking at some kind of double move or something where you can pull a penalty from him in all likelihood. So
right.
That's a very tough matchup. I don't think the Steelers linebackers can to do what you suggested. Play man on the outside and get the safeties and linebackers working in a zone on the interior. The problem is that what Patrick Queen is really good at is super simple job. Doesn't have to read the play, doesn't have to use his instincts and coverage. And it's like, you cover that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You cover that guy, or you spy the quarterback, or you blitz. That's your job.
Mm-hmm.
Just drop it into a zone and handing off the, curl or the flats. Like that's proved to be communication issues. That's the kind of communication issues that have been happening with the Steelers for years now.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to be pessimistic.
Man, I'm trying to throw darts and hit it on a board at this point. I
certainly hope they try. I certainly hope they try something different, because if they show up and anticipate that they're going to be able to do more or less the same thing on defense, it's not going to work.
Yeah. At least conversely, I think the offense should definitely be able to move the ball.
They certainly did last time.
Yeah, they certainly did last time. Well, and I've mentioned this or whatever, but the Bengals defense, if we think our defense is bad, theirs is like exponentially worse. They don't have anyone that really rushes the passer right now, outside of Trey Hendrickson. Shamar Stewart is going to quickly be out of the NFL if he does not wake the fuck up and learn to actually play football. I think he got by on so much just on his athletic talent at Texas A&M. People got
Yeah.
so enamored with it, which showed in his sack numbers. Even in college,
Yeah.
very low sack numbers for a guy with that explosivity or whatever. So that's a guy that needs to learn to play the game of
Yeah.
football, the technicalities of it or whatever. But their inside linebackers are absolute crap.
Yeah.
And I just spent a weekend in Cincinnati too, and like talking with my brother-in-law about like everything that's wrong with this team. The one secondary player that has actually played very good for them is DJ Turner.
Oh yeah. He leads the NFL in
Yeah,
passes defended.
yeah, he's been playing outstanding, but I can't remember the three guys or whatever, but they have three guys that are in the top 5 percentage wise of missed tackles in the NFL. Like that's how bad their tackling is. And we saw it against Chicago, 2 weeks ago. I mean, good God, bounced right off Loveland. Loveland rumbles off for like a 60-yard touchdown that ends up being the game winner. So I feel like we're gonna have a good chance to move the ball. We ran the ball incredibly well last time. Jalen Warren had like, a career worthy game. I expect to be able to pass the ball just because I expect our offensive line to have a bounce back week. They're not going to get challenged the same like they did this past week. So we'll see.
I will say one thing about that's different about this game is if they don't have Isaac Seumalo, BJ Hill is like one guy on their
Yeah.
defensive line. I think is actually a pretty good player,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody that I happen to really like coming out of college. I saw the small school, but I don't know if you saw. I didn't really zero in on Spencer Anderson's entire night, but there was one play where he I just remember seeing him because they showed it was a highlight that they happened to be showing for some other reason, and he was flying backward in slow motion over and over again in whatever play it was, and I was just like, all right, that's not good.
Yeah, well, and then they even had Andrus Pete in there, for a little bit to
Yeah,
help with the jumbo looks, that we just
yeah.
love to death. So it was just like, yikes.
So all I'm saying is I don't know that Sam Marlowe has been, you know, consistently great or anything, but I do think that BJ Hill against a backup guard
Yeah,
uh, is a that's a big it's a favorable difference from the last matchup.
that's true. That's true.
That I will say, but I actually was more surprising to me that the Bengals were able to run the football last time than that this because the Bengals were obviously bad against the run. So the Steelers running against them was like, okay, this is something we should be able to do against them, and they did it. But the Bengals are supposed to be terrible running the football, and they ran it really well against the Steelers the last time. So that's
Yeah.
I don't know. It's gonna have to Steelers offense is gonna have to throw the football and throw it to spread it around and find the thing that's working and just build off of that. They just can't show up and do the same thing they always do and expect they're going to put 30 points again on the Bengals. They're going to have to work at it, even with the bad defense, because the Bengals are likely to keep the ball on offense. I think there'll be some keep away. It's like you got to be able to convert third downs, which has not been a strength.
Yeah, well, and the last thing I'll say, before we start looking around the NFL, maybe look at some other stuff happening this week, examining how upside down this past week of football was too. I could easily do that, but I expect us to play a little bit of the time of possession game. I expect Tomlin to think, well, if we hold the ball longer, they aren't going to have as much time, and I won't disagree with that to an extent. The best way to not defend the pass is not have to defend the pass at all. Stay on the field or whatever. Which longer drives are going to do, which we didn't do against the Chargers anyway. I think that was the other thing that hurt us. We were on the field for 5-6 plays at a time at most before we gave had to punt or give the ball back. So I expect us to run the ball and try to control the clock, because we haven't done that in the games we've lost, and we haven't put drives together. So I think there's going to be a big emphasis on trying to run the ball and drain the clock a little bit, so there's less time for Joe Flacco and company to do some crazy ass shit, like they've been known to do here recently. So, but believe it or not, it's not the only matchup coming out this week. There's several games not to mention there's just some unbelievable games from this past week. I mean, the Dolphins upsetting the Bills.
And I watched a good bit of that. What was funny about that game was it reminded me of the Steelers in I'm going to go back further than you're alive, but the 78-9, the last year of the Super Bowl dynasty, the Steelers lost like 31-14 to the Bengals, and then they lost 35-7 to the Chargers, I think. And it's like they were the best team in the NFL, and they just had a couple of weeks where just nothing went right. And that was the Bills this week were sort of that team that Bills aren't perfect, they got flaws, whatever, but it was just a game where it's like every time something good happened for the Bills, they would immediately turn it back over, or they would make a mistake of some kind, or they would get in the edge of field goal range and something would happen and they would get knocked. They couldn't even get points. But they finally they sort of woke up and driving the football down the field, and they're going to cut it to 3 points or whatever. And Josh Allen on a quarterback sneak, he's he not so easily makes the first down on fourth and short of whatever it was. And he just keeps going, and he's 15 yards downfield, and he's still trucking, and they're pushing him, whatever, and the ball comes out. It's you have this amazing play, and you're Josh Allen, super stud, and then he fumbled, and that epitomized the day. So. Is Miami as good as they looked against Buffalo this week? No. Is Buffalo as bad as they looked? No. But Steelers get to play both those teams this year, so they can be a good barometer.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, the Raiders almost beat the Broncos on Thursday Night Football.
The Broncos though, they're playing by the skin of their teeth right now.
Yeah, that's true. And then
the Indiana Hoosiers. Sorry, I'm just kidding.
Hey, now my Hoosiers pulled that out. By the way, Catch of the Year nominee. Thank you, Omar Cooper, brother. That was just awesome. Thanks for keeping the undefeated season alive.
If you are listening to this and you have not at least seen a highlight of the Indiana Penn State game and seen this catch, first of all, who was it was a tight end or other wide receiver that caught the ball on the sideline? Just before that?
That was our redshirt sophomore receiver, Charlie Becker, whose name you will hear more of next year.
That right there was an amazing catch. And then 2 plays later or whatever, the catch in the end zone to win the game was the closest thing I remember I think of to it is in my mind was you've all seen probably the Lynn Swann catch on the sideline in Super Bowl 10 where it looked like he and the ball were out of bounds when he caught it, and somehow he landed in bounds, and you're just how did he do that? And this is a little bit like that, where the ball was thrown at the crossbar and somehow the guy was being pushed with all his might by the defender and still landed his feet in bounds, or barely his foot in bounds. So anyway, great for the Hoosiers. And it puts it in a position where it's very unlikely, even if they lose a game, it's very unlikely that they won't make both the Big Ten championship and the playoffs. So that's good news for Hoosiers fan Jeremy Kohlman.
Yeah. And then I'll tell you that there were 2 other big upsets this week in the NFL too. The Jets beat the Browns after they trade away Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner. What the hell is going on?
I texted I have a good friend here in New York who is a Jets fan, diehard Jets fan for as long as I've been a Steelers fan, and I said they can't even lose properly. They can't even lose and get the first round pick. They did the similar thing last year, right? They had a shot at the first overall pick, and they won a game at the end of the season or something too. So it's
what are you doing? Oh. I
Yeah,
mean,
you got to know how to tank. It's very
yeah.
important.
And then their special teams gets 2 scores on the day with a kick return and a punt return for a touchdown. It was just like, whoa.
2 touches in a row. So
Yeah.
they had the what was it, the punt return for a touchdown, and then they gave up a score, and the next time that anyone touched the ball for the Jets was the kickoff return for a touchdown. So
Right. I mean, if I was the Browns, like I would have been trying to execute everything to keep Justin Fields on the field. As the opposite of like the Manning Brady effect. We want him out there as much as possible.
No, I think the Jets had the 14-7 lead at halftime. They had net 4 yards of offense.
Yeah. And
Helps.
then the other big surprise was the Saints beat the Panthers. Tyler Shugg actually showed some life, and they went into Carolina and stole a game there.
Yeah, well, the Panthers are the team that I love to doubt, so that it didn't really displease me, this result. But Tyler Shugg, I mean, hey, basically a guy like that, this is his only chance to stay in the NFL. So
Yeah.
it's like if he were to come in, he's not a first round draft pick. He's not even a second round draft pick. For him to come in for this team, he has to win some games and look great in order to even be in the NFL 2 years from now. But if he does it for 4 or 5 games, he might. I mean, Josh Dobbs is still in the league. You know what I mean?
True.
It's like if you can win a couple of games and you don't look useless at any point, you don't look useless to the point where they just have to cut you and replace you, then I think he can set himself up for a nice career. I mean, he's pushing 30, but he played. I thought he played pretty well. That's a team there. As soon as they get a better quarterback and some slight upgrade in youth and talent, they'll be able to make a nice turnaround. They're not they're not in the bottom of the barrel, and squandered away all their picks the way that some other teams have. Jets, True. Giants, excuse me.
Not to mention they fired
Raiders.
Raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not to mention the Giants let go of Brian Dable earlier today as well. So that's another team.
Yeah, I predict he'll be the offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills next year when Joe Brady gets a head coaching job. That's what's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's where he got his opportunity. He looked great with Josh Allen. Started to turn him into the all-pro that we know him to be. So,
yep.
Yeah, he's got some job security in the right places because Joe Brady will get an opportunity to leave, you would think, even on the, regression of, that they aren't as dominant as they were last year or whatever. He's still put together, a good offense or whatever. It's not his fault that they've looked like that they've played bad at times.
No, they're sort of suffering from the paying a quarterback a boatload of money.
They are.
And what it does to the rest of your roster, it's like you have to be good value buyers for almost everything else on offense to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So they have, they've done okay with what they have to work with. It's just it's a little less consistently great receiving squad. You know what I mean? They can make big plays, but they're not Stephon Diggs in his prime.
Yeah, no. And then the last thing I'll say before we start picking some other games. I don't know if you've watched Big Ten football, but there was a Big Ten matchup this past week that would just astound you. The 2-6 Wisconsin Badgers beat the number 23rd ranked team in the country, Washington, who's been good. They won, I think it was 10-7 or something incredibly low like that. Their leading passer was their punter with 22 yards. It's just one of those outstanding what the fuck just happened type of games.
Now I've forgotten Washington's quarterback's name. He's an underclassman, so he's not.
Yeah, it's Demond Williams or something like that.
Yeah. And he's been a pretty dynamic player.
Yeah.
I didn't see the game. The result surprised me, but it's also I feel like when you're one of these teams that doesn't, you're a newbie in the Big Ten, to have to go to a place like Wisconsin or Iowa,
mm-hmm.
You're facing a different kind of a challenge. They're built. The teams are built differently. They play a different style of football, and if you're not really accustomed to that, it's got to be for Washington. It's got to be a little bit like facing a service academy. in terms of what the game is like.
Yeah.
And it's always the service academies, get a lot of mileage out of playing a team like Miami or whatever, where they're just like, what is happening? What are they doing? Like, I don't understand.
Right.
Yeah.
But well, let's turn our attention back to some NFL action here. We've got some nice matchups actually this week. Let's start up north, and then it's an NFC North matchup. The 6-3 Bears go into Minnesota to take on the 4-5 Vikings. They've definitely looked a little different under JJ McCarthy for the better. They haven't won everything, but he's at least put them in better situations than Carson Wentz had in prior games and whatnot. Minnesota's at home and they're favored by 3. I struggle to see that. So I'll start off here. I think the Bears end up winning and covering here. The Vikings are just such a Jekyll and Hyde team at some point, and McCarthy plays high and low. There's a lot of high and low with him, and a lot of that's due to inexperience. This really is his rookie year. He was practically out all of last year. So
yeah,
I just think the Bears' offense has been good enough, and their defensive line, I think, will give the Vikings' offensive line some issues. But we will see, because the Vikings do have AJ Jones back, so they're a little more balanced in the backfield. They do a little more running now to keep things a little less predictable. But I like the Bears to win and cover here. What are your thoughts?
interesting. Bears have been playing well as of late. They basically have won 6 of 7, but their only loss being to the Ravens in that time frame. The thing about this game is it was the first game of the season they played the Vikings, and this was the game where the Vikings were all but dead and then exploded in the fourth quarter and came back and won the game.
Right.
My guess would be that their quarterback is a little more comfortable with NFL action than he was in that first game.
Sure.
And this is in Minnesota. I like the Vikings actually win this game. I think the Bears are a pretty good team. I also don't think that they're 8 out of 9 good. Like, I don't remember. I don't know what the exact record is, but it's sort of a spin on the Corey Karbowski. It's like,
right,
like they're just going to lose a couple of games you don't expect them to lose, because they're not quite an elite team.
Yeah,
so
no.
I'll take the Vikings to win by a field goal. So it's a push. I think the line is right, but it's the Vikings will win this game.
Okay. All right. There's another good matchup with two teams that actually lost this past week that both need a little bit of rebound. The Buccaneers head up north to take on the Buffalo Bills. The Bills looked like shit this past week. And at least the Buccaneers didn't look like total shit. They at least played a good team.
It sort of looked like shit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They played a good team. I mean, the Patriots are a good team now. I think it's safe to say that. They're not elite by any means, but the Travion Henderson show finally came to life a little bit, and that was a big deal for them. He had 2 touchdowns, averaging over 10 yards a tote due to the 2 long touchdowns he had. So Buccaneers are going to need kind of bottle up James Cook, because James Cook is just as capable of breaking off long ones and stuff like Travion is. Maybe not quite that fast, but tough matchup here. So Bills are at home, favored by 5.5. Will, I'll let you start with this.
And it's going to be Buffalo-ish weather, I think, this weekend as well. Maybe not quite as cold as today. I think the early part of the week is maybe colder than the rest of the week. But let's put it this way: the Bills will welcome the chance to be at home in front of their home crowd and a chance to bounce back. I really like Tampa's team. I would classify them as more overachievers than necessarily powerhouse team. And the Bills are a pretty good team with some flaws. I kind of, in that situation, coming home after an embarrassing game, I have a feeling that the Buffalo Bills bounce back heartily in this game. Tampa's they got a tough road ahead of them. I think they have they either go to Green Bay or Detroit or something also coming up. Like they're in a tough stretch. So maybe they'll steal one of these games against really other good teams, but in a way, they strike me as more a team that's like mostly going to beat the teams they're supposed to beat and steal 1 or 2 against the other teams. And, maybe they win a playoff game. They're, probably a playoff team someday, but not this weekend.
Gotcha. I would tend to agree with you, but I think about the Buccaneers cover. I think it'll be a good close game. But like you said, I know they've been overachieving a little bit, but they do have some nice young pieces on that team. Mecca Ibuka, looking like rookie of the year right now. Honestly, and probably not even that close if you take a look at it around the league. Tez Johnson has actually come on very nicely for them. He's actually made a lot of his opportunities. Cade Otton is a nice piece. Rashad White, isn't a great running back, but he's good enough. But I do like the Bills to win this. That they do need to bounce back. So I agree with you that the Bills will win, but I like the Buccaneers to cover. I just think it's going to be a very close game, even though Buffalo needs to bounce back.
Oh, well, first off, I would say Ted McMillan maybe got an argument for rookie of the year or offensive rookie of the year. Um, in a way, he's working with less there and making a meal out of it.
Sure.
That's one. Second is, and I think he's also coming on strong lately as well. I'll call it ahead of time. I forget which week it is, but the Tampa is going to go out to the Rams, who look more or less unstoppable right now, and that's a game that they can steal. Tampa will at least cover in that game. They might even win that game. It's just one of those things like they some teams have other teams' numbers, and I think Tampa sort of has the Rams number.
Gotcha.
If I recall correctly.
All right. Let's take a look at another game. Since we're talking about the Rams, let's talk about them. They have another big NFC West matchup. They won this past weekend against San Fran. Now they get to host the Seattle Seahawks, who are just about as red hot as you can be, too. Sam Darnold's been playing extremely well this year. But the game of the week type stuff here, like that's how good these two teams are playing right now. Rams are home favored by 2.5. I'm going to go out on a limb here and see Seattle actually wins this. I think they're going to win and cover. They have played such good defense, the Rams have played such great offense. I think it's going to be one of those which is going to break first type of games, the immovable object or the unstoppable force. That's going to be one. It's going to be a hell of a game. So I like Seattle here only just because I feel like they have a little bit more defensively than maybe the Rams as a total. But this will be very close as evidenced by the line. Rams are only favored by 2.5. So just incredibly close game. Seattle pulls out a squeaker at the end. And I'll say it's because of their special teams. The Rams have a new kicker that they're playing over Cardi right now, or at least they did this past week. Can't remember his first name. It might be Harrison Mavis. I know it's Mavis.
He's the thicker kicker, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the thicker kicker that came out from Missouri. I think he's either a rookie or a second-year kicker. I can't remember.
Yeah, but he played in the UFL or whatever it's called now.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, but yeah. So I think the difference could come down to special teams field goal, and I'll say the Seahawks have the slight advantage there with, I think it's Myers is still their kicker. So that's what I'll say. Seahawks win and cover the 2.5. Well,
I think it's a very good matchup, and it might both these teams I think are in contention for the first overall seed, I think, in the NFC. So it's an important matchup. It'll feel like a playoff game. I'm sort of with you. I was, leaning towards the home team and just thinking it's a game where if it were in Seattle, I'd feel a lot better about picking. Maybe I'll pick them to split. So I'll pick the Rams because they haven't played in Seattle yet, I think.
I don't think so.
So I'm picking the Rams. Picking this series to be a split. So let's say the home team in each occasion. Maybe it'll be the visiting team in each occasion. But I do like this idea that the defense of Seattle. Figuring out ways to slow down the Rams offense. But the real scary part of this for me is Matthew Stafford has just set a record 4 games in a row with 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, which has never been done before in the NFL.
Yeah, I saw that. I was watching that game on Sunday, and I was like, wow, that's
so it's
impressive.
something. Here's the thing about that, though. The longer you're on that roll, the more likely it is to stop.
It's true.
So I don't think he gets 4 touchdown passes in this game because I think it's going to be a real dogfight. But yeah, I'll take the Rams to squeak one at home.
Yeah, and you're correct. They have not gone to Seattle. They will do that on a Thursday night on December 18th. So you're right. That this game has not been played yet. Another big matchup. Really, there's like five really good games that I would not keep my eyes off this week. The Chiefs have to go to Denver. 5-4 Chiefs go to the 8-2 Broncos. I'll let you start here since I started off on the other one.
Reversion to the mean. The Chiefs are not as bad as their record says, and the Broncos are not as good as theirs says. Yeah, their defense is good. The Chiefs have started to get a roll, and they're coming off a bye, I think. And if I recall correctly, Andy Reid has some ridiculous won and loss record coming out of the bye. Here, I'll look it up while we're talking while you're predicting. But
it's probably equally as bad as Tomlin's coming off a bye on a Thursday night against a division rival. The inverse of that, I mean.
Yeah, he's 22-4.
Whew.
Oh, no, sorry. He was 22-4 with the Eagles and 9-3 with the Chiefs. So he's 31-7 coming off the bye. I'll take Andy Reid and the Chiefs.
Yeah, I will too. The Broncos have had the luxury of playing just really bad teams, and they haven't blown them out either. So, the Chiefs' offense looks like it's ready to roll. Honestly, they just have played in some close games where they just haven't made the play at the end. I think last year I heard they won almost every close game, one score game, or it's like this year they're just kind of on the other side of that coin a little more often than not. But I really like the Chiefs offense. I was really hoping Breece Hall would get traded to them to like really give their running game a bit of a boost, because I think that's the one thing that's really holding him back. I mean, Kareem Hunt is like 33 years old, and Pacheco just can't stay healthy anymore. And like Brashard Smith is a nice change of pace back.
I'm just about to say, though, I think those three guys, if they're healthy enough to play, I'll take that running back room over almost every team. I mean, that's pretty good. So the standards are high. We're like, we'd really like them to get even better, but I don't know, man. Like,
sure.
I'm a big Brashard Smith fan, and I feel like the way they're using Kareem Hunt is a very effective way to get a lot out of him. And Pacheco, when he's healthy, has been a perfect fit for what they want to do. So I just that he's supposedly healthy now. So like we'll see. Maybe famous last words. He'll get hurt this week for the season, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, see, you should have traded for Breece Hall. But I don't know who you sit. If you trade for Breece Hall, you're going to sit one of those guys like and not give them any touches anymore. Like that's weird.
Yeah, no, and I more just mean like it. It was rumored that the Chiefs were looking for another running back, and he would have fit what they do a lot. They like to use the running back in both the run and the pass game. He's got the breaking speed that would really give that offense just another, gear out of the backfield is really all I meant. I'm not saying I don't like the backs there. Don't get me wrong.
They either need a Chase Brown type, who's got wheels and is good in the pass game, and is a good blocker in the pass game, or they need like a Jaylen Warren to sort of be a little bit of an upgrade over Kareem Hunt, younger, tougher, faster. So like those are the fits that would have been good for them. And you're right that Breece Hall would sort of like be able to fill those two roles pretty well.
And it's not that I don't like the Chiefs' usage of their running backs. It's more I like if a guy is playing well, I like to ride him. It's like when he's playing well, I like to ride him a little bit because I'm not saying shared workloads aren't good for a running back room. They definitely are. We've seen what it's done in Seattle this year with a good split between Charbonnet and Walker. We've seen a good split in Detroit, with Gibbs and Montgomery. But they're great or whatever. Don't get me wrong. But when one guy's really cooking, I like to let him keep cooking, But we're both in agreement. We both like the Chiefs here. The Broncos offense it's out of sorts. Like they can't figure out how to consistently move the ball. And I think that'll be the one thing that bites them this week. I did forget to mention the Chiefs are 3.5 point favorites going into Denver. So we both.
I don't think this is a one score game. I'll be honest.
Me too. And then we'll do one NFC game really quick because it's a big one. Lions go to Philadelphia. This is two heavyweights that like to run the ball. The Lions made an interesting move this past week. Dan Campbell called all the offensive plays, and they looked fantastic. That's kind of been the missing element to a degree. So I like the Lions to win this one. This is actually far enough out where I don't see a line on MGM. But I like the Lions to win here. I'll see if someone else has a line. It just feels like their offense under Dan Campbell, with him calling the plays, it felt so much cleaner and better executed. So I'm not sure what the disconnect was between play caller and offensive coordinator and everything. But the Eagles, while I like the Eagles, I do think this will be an incredibly close game. Last team with the ball kind of wins this one because neither defense has been great up to this point, but the Eagles do have new pieces in Jalen Phillips. Michael Carter the second, I believe, is another nickelback. And there was like one more player they
have Nickelback.
Look at this photograph. No, I'm just joking.
That's it. You got me.
No, I got it. But I like Detroit. They just have more firepower, and I feel like it's running more consistently than what the Eagles have done this year. So go for that.
Philly's a 1.5 point favorite, by the way.
Okay. All right.
Which is a good line for this game. It should be a pick 'em or close to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I feel like Philly's. It depends. Early in the season, I would have taken Detroit in this game. But I feel like Philly have achieved the status, much like the Chiefs, where they don't really get it going until like halfway through the season. Yeah. Like they're not trying to lose or anything, but they're, it's hard to get it. You just had this big, long, end of the season, you building to a crescendo and blaze through the playoffs and crush everybody and go to the Super Bowl and win, or go to the Super Bowl and be disappointed. Either way, to come back the next July into camp and work your ass off and then play 150% the first week of the season, like, sorry, it's like a very unlikely scenario when you're a really great team. And I just feel like Philly's a disruptive team to play. They don't play exactly. There's not a lot of teams in the NFL that play the way the Eagles play on either offense or defense. So they're a tough matchup. And maybe a division game, like they lost to the Giants, right? Like they're a perfect example of a division game where they'd be more vulnerable in that game early in the season because that other team is accustomed to what they do. So I think that I'm not undervaluing Detroit at all. I think they're actually a really good team. They played great last week. The Eagles, I kind of feel like can do a lot of stuff to disrupt you on offense. And the Detroit Lions can do a lot of stuff on offense. So what a fun matchup. I mean, I think both this and that Rams Seattle game are both really good games. So be fun to watch. I'm going to take the Eagles to eke it out. I just, like I said, Eagles playing at home.
Yeah.
Have the disruptive scheme, I think, for Detroit.
All right. Well, that brings us up to the 5-star matchup of the week, I guess. We already talked about 5 really great games, so this one fits in, I guess. Shockingly, I am really surprised at this line, so I would tell people to bet this line. Steelers are 5.5 point favorites at home against the Bengals. Take the Bengals to cover this. Like, I don't know where. Like, if you looked at the last game that we played and think this is going to be a whole lot different than that, I don't think it will. I think it will stay a very close game. So I will take the Steelers to win this, but not cover that. I like the Bengals plus 5.5 right now. And don't get me wrong, this is, we're doing this show on a Monday and bringing it out on a Tuesday. So it's an early line. So if you listen to this early, I would get on that line early. I do think there will be some movement later in the week. We've kind of talked about the matchups and stuff. I think we'll play the time of possession game a little bit more, try to keep the ball out of the Bengals' hand a little bit. we'll be able to move the ball. Hopefully, we just get a stop here or there that we did not get the last time. Maybe with a little bit of shift in what we've done defensively. Maybe we can get that one or two crucial stops. And Boswell got a miss out of the way this past week, so we know he's good for the rest of the year. So
pretty much,
yeah, we'll basically win this by a field goal, but not cover. So
if he
that's where
doesn't,
I'm
imagine what the turf is going to look like though at Acrisure.
right,
Like
because Pitt is hosting game day there. So yeah, who knows? There could be another turf miss because that's
turf
what
debacle. Yeah.
yeah, no, because that's what it was. And I guess I need to give a score here. Yikes. I will say, man, I'm going to say it's a little different than last time, not quite as high scoring. I'll go 27-24. And ironically, I think that was my prediction this past week.
This past week.
Yeah, so I like 27-24 again.
We'll have to get Corey is currently top 10 for the season in terms of our board score prediction game. I know the score I want to pick. I'm just not sure which way to go with it.
Which team should be there?
Nice. I think this is a 31-30 game. I said this last week, and it was the end of me. I said that it looked on paper like, like you're sort of, it seems like a game that last week that the Steelers would bounce back and win a game that they probably shouldn't have against the Chargers. Right. And this week feels like, all right, like the Steelers are going to be out to prove that loss to Cincinnati the last time was a fluke, and their defense is now like got it more on track or whatever. So I'll take the Steelers. I'll take the Steelers 31-30. I'm not getting anywhere in the score game. So don't go by anything I say, but I just have a feeling that it's a little bit of a barn burner. And it will be a game where their defense is so bad. It's just, it's like whoever ends up with the ball last, probably going to win this game. And both these coaches have played out the end of halves where they played to not give the other team the ball. Like they didn't even try as hard to get a touchdown if it meant the other team wouldn't get the ball. They're both of that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
So it'll be whoever ends up with the ball late and cannot leave enough time on the clock for the other team to come back is probably going to win this game.
Yeah, maybe 27-24 is a little low, but it just kind of feels like that's going to be the right number again.
Oh, by the way, I thought of something when we were doing the matchups that I forgot to mention, and that is, if teams are trying to get the ball out quickly and they're triple chipping TJ Watt, and that's why he has been kind of a non-factor early in these games, especially with the way that the Bengals kept hitting those quick passes, quick slants behind the Steelers defense before TJ Watt even had a chance to get there. Why not drop him into pull a James Harrison in the Super Bowl and show he's going to brush and then drop back in the passing lane? Like if Jamar Chase is on your side and he's in the slot, if I'm TJ Watt, I'm literally improving, dropping into the passing lane because, you're not going to get to the ball. You're not going to get to the passer before the ball comes out. And so, yeah, maybe you'll get a chance to tip it or whatever. But if you drop in the passing lane, that's, that might be more disruption than you could cause as a pass rusher. So there's you want to talk about a wrinkle that you could try? There's a wrinkle for you. I mean, when you're a 4-3 or 3-4 defense, you on base downs, you have to try to figure out ways to add that extra linebacker. And we did it a little bit with Alex Highsmith recently, where we dropped Alex Highsmith into coverage some, but we don't seem to like to do that with Watt, despite his obvious length and anticipation of the ball. So I'd like to see that a little bit on that side of the football.
Not to mention, he's had some history of when he does drop back, he actually makes plays. He actually has 3 interceptions in his career after dropping into zones, just because we people don't expect him to be there. Like he did it once versus the Bills, I want to say, maybe against the Rams a few years ago. And and then hell, against Joe Burrow. I mean, he just went up and snagged one at the line once. Yeah. So, I mean.
Joe Burrow was a very catchable ball.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Even with your defensive lineman, yeah.
Yeah. But
that's all I wanted to add. I think it's a game that they absolutely have to win. It's a game that I think they will win, but I wouldn't expect it to be easy.
Yeah, the good news, it's at a 1 o'clock game slot. So I think that actually bodes well for Pittsburgh. Anytime outside the 1 o'clock, we basically have sucked at. Um, thank you all for joining us for another episode of the SteelerFury.com podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Kohlman, along with Will Masisak. You can catch us on the boards at Smith is Smoking and Bradshaw to Ben, respectively. Hopefully, Pittsburgh kind of gets their act together against a not good team in the Bengals and, finds a way to put up some points. That's just that they can't do that. They're not going to win games. So we've got to find a way to get some points on the board and get us one more stop than they did last
So wait,
time.
we have to get points on the board and stop the other team from scoring points? Is that what you're saying is the object?
That can't be what football's all about, is it?
Oh, wow, really? Phew. Sounds so easy.
Right. Well, here we go, Steelers. Hopefully, we get a much needed win over division rival as they managed to get their game in Cincinnati. Let's get ours in Pittsburgh. So here we go, Steelers.
Go get them, SteelerFury.com.